Hello, my fellow chatterers and book lovers, and anyone else who's popped in because you're curious or you're lost. I'm Chatty, and welcome to my channel, Chatty the Mad Chatter, where today I'm chatting away madly about not cake. This is my tier tags, so we are doing the Pax Panic Tag today. This is an original tag created by Pax Panic. Everything will be linked in the description, so do go and check out the original video, and also go and check out the video which is also linked, which is Sydney's video. I was tagged by Storytime with Sid, so I'm very excited to do this challenge. I've got my tea, but first of all, as always, we need to acknowledge we're doing this in one shot with no editing. This is the second take. I don't want to do any more. Let's do this. There's some dust in there. That's really gross. I don't know. Oh, I have water. Well, we're still rolling, so there you go. Some extra footage of me choking on dust, and the cleanliness of my house has been taken into account here. Let's get the first tag before any more chaos comes in. So first of all, we have, now can I pronounce any of these? Coulrophobia we're going for, and that is the fear of crowds. So for this, I need to choose a book with either a place or a group of people I hated. And I have gone for The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead, because there are so many people in this book that I absolutely hate, because this book deals a lot with racism. So it follows the story of I can't remember her name anymore. Cora. Sorry, Cora. Cora, who is an escaped slave. It has some, not flashbacks, but there's kind of moments where it reflects on her life and then moments of her journey. And throughout her journey, we encounter lots of people I hate. So many. There's slave catchers, there's crowds of people. Racism is rife in this. And then there's some sneaky racism as well. And all of it is awful. The are two places in particular. I'm not going to go into detail because I don't want to spoil it for anyone. But there's one that I found so much more shocking because I didn't see it straight away. And then there's another one which is just horrendous. It's like a living hell. And it was terrifying reading that. And it was awful. Just awful. Absolutely horrible, horrible, horrible. But the book is great. The book is brilliant. The book was hard to read because although the physical Underground Railroad is not a thing, it is based on so many thousands and thousands and thousands of stories that are true. So it is a little bit uncomfortable at times, but very important to read. So that fits perfectly for that one. And I put it back in the tea, which wasn't clever. Let's take it out. Right, next tag. This one is Misophonia, a fear of germs. Quite apt for this day and age. And for this one, we need to choose a book with the best symptoms or the best infection. I don't know what we're clarifying best as, because I wouldn't say that that's something I would interpret with being infected. But I have gone for Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb. It is a feature in all of the Farseer books, but I feel it's more pronounced in this one. Not more pronounced, it's dealt with the most in this one. So there is a people called the Red Ships, and they sail to the shores of the Six Duchies, and they forge, which is where they take villagers. They threaten, if you don't, placate us, we will forge people. So they attack, they gather survivors, and the survivors are then sent back into their land, and basically their entire kind of like humanity and soul is taken from them. They are just wild. They are just, there's nothing, it's just the shell of their body. There's nothing left of them. There's no person inside. There's no sentience there. But they are still alive, and they are just kind of a lot more primal and kind of focused on survival and getting food. And it's very kind of bestial behavior. So that is something they are dealing with throughout this series. So that's a horrible infection. It's quite terrifying to read about. But fascinating and very thrilling. So beautifully written by Hobb, I feel. So maybe that qualifies as the best infection, although maybe the best infection we're looking for is actually the worst infection that is the most horrific. So anyway, that's my answer for that one. Next tag is Coulrophobia, a fear of clowns. So for this tag, we have to read a book with a ridiculous or a funny scene. And there were a few I could have picked, but I have gone for Terry Pratchett's Men at Arms. Terry Pratchett's books in general I just find hilarious. But there are so many things in here that I find particularly funny. This mishmash of these characters. So this is from The Watch. It's the second book in the Watch series, which is basically the Ankh-Morpork police force. So it's a mythological police force, and in this one they have recruited a troll, and they have recruited a dwarf, and they have recruited a woman. So these are all like the token minority groups that have been drafted into the police force. So people have different opinions. They're a bit of a ragtag group, but the Watch are kind of looked down on as a bit of a joke. But there is a crime that needs solving, and they're tired of being a joke, so they start to mean business in this book, and they don't want to play these political games with the business people anymore. So in Ankh-Morpork, we have a city that is run by a veterinary who is a dictator, and he's made the city of basically loads of criminals work to the best of its ability. He has legalized theft and legalized murder by having the Guild of Thieves and the Guild of Assassins, where they have a certain quota they are allowed to fill each year if you pay your taxes to them, and any licensed thieves are dealt with by the Thieves Guild or by the Assassins Guild, which they find scary. They also have other guilds like the Beggars Guild, the Guild of Seamstresses, and the Guild of Fools, which is essentially clowning, which is a very serious business and quite morbid. So here is a scene I'm going to read to you, whether you like it or not, because it's my channel and I feel you need to hear it because it's really funny. However, if you have a different opinion, you are feel free to forward or click off. Anyway, 10 minutes later, they pushed through the crowds and were outside the guilds. "Have we got time?" said Angua. "I thought we were going to the day watch." "There's something I must find out first," said Carrot. "The fools haven't told the truth." Hang on a minute, said Sergeant Colon. "This is going altogether just a bit too far by half. Look, I don't want us to kill anyone, right? I happen to be sergeant round here, if anyone's interested. Understand, Carrot, Nobby, no shooting or sword play. It's bad enough barging into guild property, but we'll get into really serious trouble if we shoot anyone. Lord Veterinary won't stop at sarcasm. He might use..." Colon swallowed. "Irony. So that's an order. What do you want to do anyway?" "I just want people to tell me things," said Carrot. "Well, if they don't, you're not to hurt them," said Colon. "So long as that's understood." Carrot knocked on the fool's door, reached up and caught the custard pie as it emerged from the slot, and rammed it back hard. Then he kicked the door so it swung inwards a few inches. Someone behind it said, "Ow!" The door opened a bit further to reveal a small clown covered in whitewash and custard. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "I just wanted to get into the spirit of the thing," said Carrot. "I'm Corporal Carrot, and this is a citizens' militia, and we all enjoy a good laugh. Excuse me, except for Lance Constable Cuddy. And Lance Constable Detritus enjoys a good laugh too, although some minutes after everyone else. And we're here to see Dr. Whiteface." The clown's hair rose. Water squirted from his buttonhole. Have you got an appointment?" he said. "I don't know," said Carrot. "Have we got an appointment?" "I've got an iron ball with spikes on it," Nobby volunteered. "That's a morning star, Nobby." "Is it?" "Yes," said Carrot. "An appointment is an engagement to see someone, while a morning star is a large lump of metal used for viciously crushing skulls. It is important not to confuse the two, isn't it, Mr.?" He raised an eyebrow. "Boffo, sir, but... So if you could perhaps run along and tell Dr. Whiteface we're here with an iron ball with spikes..." "What am I saying? I mean, without an appointment to see him, please. Thank you." The clown scuttled off. "There," said Carrot. "Was that all right, Sergeant?" "He's probably going to be satirical even," said Colon morosely. I just think it's really funny. So yeah, that is my ridiculous scene. There is more. It carries on in a similar vein. There is also a fun scene when they're commandeering weapons by pretending that they are weapon inspectors. So there's so many things in here that are funny, but also some parallels to our world where you kind of hold up a mirror for not accepting people because they are different, being and community differences. So all in all, I just love the watch. I think they're fantastic, and that is a very funny scene. Unless, you know, you don't have a sense of humour, obviously. So the next one is, again, another tricky word for me to pronounce, Arachnophobia, a fear of heights. So this is a book that changed your view. So for this one, I've gone for a classic. It surprised me when I read it, and I just thought it was rather fantastic, and that is The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. So what it changed my view on was holding people accountable and saying no and holding on to your views and being strong to live up to your ideals, and even if it's someone you love, to call them out on their bad behaviour, basically. So in here we have the story kind of is in like 3 parts. So we get the first bit where we are introduced to for want of a better word, a village, a community. There was a mysterious stranger called Helen. I can't remember her surname. Which is appalling. I'll just find her surname. Helen Graham. So Helen Graham has just moved into Wildfell Hall along with her son, and obviously subject for village gossip because she's a new person and they don't know this widow. And she has very strong views about different things, is a little bit aloof. And the character that we follow, Mr. Markham, starts to kind of get to know her a bit more, and we find out more about her. And then the second section is kind of from her point of view, and we hear about her past, which has a lot of relation to how she is seen in the future. And then we finish this bit about her past, and then we go back to the present day, but we now know what she's gone through, which kind of massively kind of changes your opinion of her. And then the story kind of progresses from there. And although at the start of her initial story, she makes some decisions that are not wise, but you can understand why she makes them, and she continues to be very strong despite being seen as property, as under her husband's power, like she's supposed to like obey him according to the societal rules of the time. And it's wonderful just watching her not accepting situations and calling them out. Like, she's not silent about things, she calls it out. And that has made me realise that actually sometimes maybe it's more peaceful to not call things out and try and go around problems, but actually it's so much better for everyone involved if you call things out, and there is no reason why you should not call things out, and you shouldn't have to be treated the way that she is treated. And I found that really powerful, particularly so of the time it was written. My respect for Anne Bronte is off the charts for this piece of work. It is incredible. If you have not read this, if you enjoy reading classics, I absolutely highly recommend. Some people struggle with how moral Helen is. I can understand she wouldn't be a very easy person to live with, but she would let you have the truth. You know, she would tell you how it is. She would, you know, get you to pull your socks up. And I probably need my socks pulling up. So yes, this one definitely changed my view, and it is one of my favourite books. Quite a lot of these are my favourite books, but you know, kind of goes without saying. Right, our next one is Tryphobia, a fear of holes. And for this one, we have to read a book with a plot hole. No, not read a book, name a book. I haven't got time to read a book. Name a book with a plot hole. This is the one I don't physically have with me because it's downstairs, but I'm trying to film without disturbing my settled child, so I don't want to go back down and retrieve it. But for this one, I'm going for Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I've heard people mention it before. It's the only one that I can think of where I feel there's a very blatant plot hole. And I'm going to try and talk about it without spoiling the story, although I imagine it's a very well-known book that a lot of people have read. And yes, in case you have been wondering, am I making a political statement by having a Harry Potter book in the video and having gender and Felix Ever After, which support trans rights behind me? The answer is yes, I absolutely am. I feel it's important when I talk about Harry Potter to also very highly stress that trans rights are human rights and trans women are women because of problematical authors. Anyway, back to the plot hole. I do very much love this series. It's a very nostalgic series from my childhood, and at the time I very much read and kind of read it for what it was, enjoyed the journey, enjoyed the ride. However, looking back on it, it is the kind of the crux of the purpose of the villain in this book has woven a very elaborate web to make a certain event happen, whereas it feels that a much simpler solution could be found. If you don't want to know the spoiler, please turn away now. If you've read the book, if you already know, I'm going to talk about it now. So, Harry Potter is put into the Goblet of Fire to take part in the Triwizard Tournament in order for a member of Voldemort's inner circle to get him to get through the trials, to touch the Triwizard Cup and win the tournament, which is then a portkey that transports him to Voldemort. Whereas a much simpler plan, I mean, I have had a conversation before where someone has said, why didn't they just give him a portkey textbook? I feel a much simpler plan would be, you know, they have got a close relationship between Harry and this person that he is unaware of, and very easily could a moment have been designed so that he could be by himself without anyone else, and could have been given a portkey, transported him to said place so Voldemort could kill him, and then the said person could easily then have made it appear that Harry was still alive and well, and so someone else sees him somewhere else, so they weren't associated with it, and it could have been missing for a very long time without anyone realising, and not have to go through a very elaborate plot of going through Triwizard trials. Obviously, that wouldn't have been as fun, but it is a very big plot hole. So there's that one. And I will timestamp so you know spoiler time has finished. Back to the next tag. And this one is Astrophobia, fear of lightning and thunder. And this is, we have to name a book that hit you hard. Beloved. Beloved hit me very hard. I knew it was going to be a heavy book. I knew it was going to be a book that would probably be quite sad. But the situation that happens in here... Sorry, I just had to check on something. So yes, I wasn't expecting how hard this was going to hit me. So Beloved tells a story. There are a few generations that it looks at. So the story starts off where we meet this family. There is a grandma character. There is a mother. There is a young daughter. And then there's very much an air of tragedy and sadness. And we don't know what that is. An old friend of the mother's comes back. And then we start to hear more of the story unpeeling. And then a stranger comes, a stranger that they seem to know, and they believe is the dead spirit of one of the children that belong to the mum, known as Beloved. And then that affects everyone. And we go back into the past of all these characters. The mother used to be a slave. We hear her story, what happened, how she came to the point of leaving, escaping, breaking for freedom, and all the things that affected her. We then start to learn kind of what happened once she arrived in what was presumed a safe place. We then start to hear about how things happened in the community, and it is very much about how the scars of the trauma that they all went through run deep. So we often think about, you know, stories of escaping slavery and being able to get to freedom and things being brilliant, but you can't unlive things that have happened to you. There is trauma, there are things that need to be dealt with, and the book looks at that. It looks at how deeply they were affected by this, and how much so the thing that hit, sorry again, another thing I had to go and check. So the mother is called Sethi. So the thing that hit me the most was how Sethi was affected by what happened to her, and the feeling of enslavement, and how much she is prepared to sacrifice to ensure that never happens to her and to her children. And although it's hard to understand, there's a certain part of me that does. There's a certain part of me that sees how awful it was for her to get to that point. If you have read the book, you will understand what all these cryptic things are, but I really don't want to go into spoilers. I don't even want to go into spoilers saying this is a spoiler, here we go, because I just feel that I don't know, I just don't want to. I want people to read this. I want people to experience it for themselves, and it's more than you can talk about in part of a tag video, but it's just really hard hitting, and it's definitely a story that has stayed with me since I've read it. I think about it a lot. I sympathise with most of the characters you're supposed to sympathise with in here. They all have very different things they're dealing with, and the need to be able to talk to each other and move forward is so important, not just in this story, but it just shows, like, in all traumatic things, it's so important to have that support and ability to be able to move forward from it. Very hard hitting, very powerful story. And final tag in the tea is Arachnophobia. I know that one, fear of spiders. So for this one, we need to name a book that has a ton of characters in it. And for this, I have gone for, I've just got the ones I've read, but A Chorus of Dragons. There are a ton of characters in these books. So, Ruin of Kings, we have the main protagonist, Kiran. We have people that he knows from his early childhood days, new people he meets. We then have a jailer that we meet right at the beginning, and the story is told, one by Kiran, and one the story about Kiran but told by the jailer at an earlier point to when he starts telling this story. So we then have people from who he encounters in the future when he's telling his story about how he was sold as a slave, and then the different people he finds in the future, not the future, but the different people he finds further on in the timeline. And then we have the jailer Talon telling the story about when he went from his kind of childhood beginnings to then finding himself as a what's it called, Ongenra, which is basically a recognised bastard of the aristocratic families. So you get to meet all those aristocrats, you get to meet all those family members. On top of this, we have deities, we have 3 villains, we have a set of immortal people called the Vane, and they have their histories, so we learn more about them. And then in the second book, we have a different protagonist, and we have events that are happening in this one, what's going on with a different protagonist in this one, and then at the end of this book, the 2 books kind of follow each other. So we have a whole bunch of different characters in this one. We have some of the same characters that we followed in this one. So we get to see more of the world. We get characters in Jorat. We get characters in Yor. We see more of the villains. We see new characters mixed up with the villains. It's all very exciting. And then we get to this one, which I have just read, which was amazing. And this one follows directly on from the events, all very raw and new. So we get all the characters from these books in this one, plus a few more new characters. We get to see all of the deities. We get more of the Vane. There's so much going on in this book. There's so many characters, and it's amazing. And I love all the characters. There's not really a character that I don't love. Maybe Zoltaroth. I think I probably don't love Zoltaroth. But I think, oh, and, well, yes. Some others maybe I don't love. But generally, there's some very grey characters in here that are just delightful, and it's so much fun. And I am probably going to do a video recommending this series. I know it's not for everyone. I know it's triggering for some people because they had such a difficult time getting into the non-linear storytelling and really struggled with it. But I love it and it's amazing. But lots of characters, lots and lots and lots and lots of characters. So that is this one. Okay, let's check the teacup. It is empty. We've drunk the tea. We've done the tag. So all that remains is for me to tag some more people. No pressure for anyone to do tags. I mean, some of the people I'm tagging, I don't know if tags are their thing. But it's kind of part wanting to tag to join in, also part wanting to just shout out these channels again. So you can go and check out some other fantastic booktubers. So I want to tag Bin Userkaf from the channel Positive Writer. He is the king of dystopia. I don't think I've seen him do tags on his channel, but if you fancy to tag, this one's fun. I'd love to see, you know, what dystopia recs you put in. Don't have to put in dystopia recommendations or ones in here, but always fun to see. I would also like to tag, I haven't tagged her for a while, Monti B from the channel Monti B. I'd love to hear some of her answers for this, and Frank's. I mean, I'm sure Frank has got a lot to say. I'd love to hear what he thinks too. For those of you who don't know, Frank is Monti B's parrot, enjoys her in quite a lot of her videos, and it's a lot of fun. You should go and check out her channel. I also want to tag Anitha from the channel Anitha Garde, because I haven't tagged her in a while. You should definitely go and check out her channel. She reads a lot of fantasy books and some sci-fi, so I'd love to hear some of her answers for this one as well. I also want to tag a channel that's very new to me. I've been chatting and seeing her pop up on MJ's Discord channel, and that is Wendy from Book It with Wendy. So Wendy, I'm tagging you, and I'd love to see your answers for this one. I don't think you've done this tag. I did check and I couldn't see it, but if you have filmed it already, then I'll just enjoy it. And finally, I want to tag Kelli from Kelli Reads a Lot. Again, Kelli, I checked your channel. I don't think you've done this tag. But if you have, great, I look forward to seeing it. But if not, I'm looking forward to seeing books you put in here, and maybe some middle grades as well. I'm looking forward to seeing what ones you pop into these questions. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this video. And also, if you would like to do this tag, please do, because it's so much fun. You absolutely don't have to be tagged to do tags. If you see a tag and want to do it, great. And that includes anyone who does not have a YouTube channel. Please write in the comments, tell me what books you would put in for these prompts. Happy reading, everyone.